Kale's spine grunts and cracks under the weight of a falling support beam as he wraps his arms around Alara's head to save her from the fire. The world is nothing but white heat and the smell of ozone. He doesn't let go. He can't. If he moves, she dies. How much would you sacrifice for someone who doesn't even know your name? Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt invisible while carrying the world for someone else. Let's look closer. The copper spinning top had been perfectly still on the console 8 months ago, a heavy weight in his palm before the first deployment to Ethelgard Reach. Beside the observation window, the stars looked like cold, distant pinpricks. Kale took a sip of his water. It tasted like old pipes and recycled sweat, a lukewarm reminder that Ethelgard Reach was just a fancy tin can in the middle of nowhere. He didn't mind the taste. It was grounding. 8 months. That was how long he had been Alara's shadow. She was a Sovel, tall and shimmering like a moonlight-touched river, her silver robes catching the artificial light of the trading station. She was a telepath, a high-value asset for the delegation, and she looked at him as if he were part of the furniture. A security contractor. Cheap, expendable, and unremarkable. Kale liked it that way. The perimeter was movement at the balcony, clear for now. He adjusted his stance, his eyes tracking the flow of diplomats and merchants. To Alara, the room was a sea of colored clouds, a mess of Sovel empathy and alien emotions. To Kale, the room was a grid. Exits, blind spots, choke points. He counted 42 guests, 3 potential weapon signatures hidden under heavy cloaks, and 1 Krosh ambassador who was currently the biggest threat in the sector. Ambassador Thrax was massive, his skin a roadmap of ritual scars. The Krosh hegemony didn't believe in diplomacy. They believed in leverage. And Alara, with her rare gift for deep reading, was the ultimate leverage. How many nights had he spent watching her door while she slept in the safety he bought with his own exhaustion? "You have been standing there for 6 hours, Alara said, her voice a melodic chime. She didn't look at him, but he could feel the weight of her Sovel curiosity. It was a soft, probing thing, hitting the mental walls he'd spent a decade building in the Terran Special Ops. "I'm fine," Kale replied. The Sovel had laws against uninvited mind-reading. The law of mental sovereignty was their most sacred taboo. But Kale knew that curiosity was a gateway drug. He kept his thoughts locked in a tactical vault. He didn't think about his home or his history. He thought about the Krosh. He thought about the curved blades they liked to hide in their sleeves. A low hum, then nothing. The station's power grid flickered, a microsecond lag that most people missed. Kale didn't. He saw Thrax's jaw tighten. He saw the Krosh's yellow eyes lock onto Alara's throat. The silence is about to break. Subscribe now so you don't miss the moment Kale's secret war becomes a public catastrophe. We're getting to the turning point. He watched Alara move through the crowd. She handled the deep reading with a grace that made it look easy. But he knew the cost. He'd read the classified briefings. He knew that Sovel who peered too deep into a chaotic mind often didn't come back. She walked toward Thrax. It was a tactical nightmare. Kale moved to intercept, his steps silent on the polished deck. "The ambassador is asking for her now," Kale interrupted, stepping between the massive Krosh and the shimmering Sovel. His voice was a flat, unthreatening drone. Thrax looked down at him. The Krosh laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "Humans," he spat. "Pets that think they are people." Kale didn't blink. He waited until Thrax moved away, his heavy footsteps vibrating through the floor. "Ambassador Haniel did not ask for me," Alara whispered when they were alone. "No," Kale said. "You lied." "Yes." She studied his face, searching for a crack in the tactical mask. "Why intervene? He was not threatening me." "There are many kinds of threats," Kale said, stepping back into the shadows. He felt the phantom weight of the copper top in his pocket. It was his anchor, the only thing keeping him from drifting into the cold logic of the mission. The ventilation fan in the barracks clicked with a relentless, tinny rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. Kale sat on the edge of his cot, cleaning the carbon scoring off his sidearm while the station's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights to a bruised purple. He felt the phantom pressure of Alara's presence from across the station, a strange resonance he could not explain. If she looked at him, pulse check 92 BPM, he would have to turn away. He was not supposed to feel the Sovel's curiosity as a physical weight. Yet here he was, staring at the intelligence folder Celine had dropped on his bunk. The Krosh were not just coming for the Sovel delegation. They were coming for her. Celine had explained the logic of the mission with the cold detachment of a woman who had seen too many Terrans die in foreign dirt. Ignorance is her shield, Kale. If she knows she is a target, her empathy will spike, and the Krosh will track her signal like a beacon. I can carry the weight for her, Kale had replied. That was the choice he made every morning when he strapped on his tactical vest. Humans were the galaxy's ultimate shock absorbers, built with a unique brand of neuroplasticity that the Sovel called synaptic resilience. While other species relied on fixed biological gifts, the human brain could rewire its entire cognitive architecture under extreme duress, transforming raw trauma into a high-functioning survival radar that bypassed standard neural limits. It was a brutal, self-sacrificing evolution. Fire. Kale's spine grunts and cracks under the weight of a falling support beam as he wraps his arms around Alara's head to save her from the fire. The context is finally clear. The Krosh had not just bombed the marketplace, they had triggered a focused kinetic pulse designed to shatter Sovel telepathic barriers. In the wreckage, Kale did not pull away. He leaned into the collapse, his ribs screaming as he anchored her against the deck plating. Through the physical contact, the bridge formed. He felt Alara's mind pour into his like an icy flood, her terror meeting the absolute, organized calm of his tactical processing. She saw the secrets he had kept for 8 months, the poisoned documents he had touched to save her, the assassins he had silenced in the dark, and the simple, unwavering promise that she would live to see the next sunrise. He moved through the sublevels of the Reach with a predatory focus, clearing corners and neutralizing Krosh operatives in a blur of motion that integrated Alara's telepathic radar directly into his tactical subroutines until the two of them functioned as a single lethal organism. The 12 hunters never stood a chance. They were fighting a soldier who knew where they were before they pulled their triggers, guided by a woman who had finally learned the price of her own peace. He stayed. The observation deck was quiet 3 days later. The glass orchid Alara had bought at the festival sat on the ledge, its petals shimmering with a soft, reclaimed light. Kale stood by the window, his back stitched with fresh scars that he would never mention to the Sovel High Council. Beside him, the copper spinning top lay on the metal railing. It was no longer a heavy anchor to a dead past. It was a quiet testament to the person he had chosen to protect. He reached out and set the top spinning. It hummed against the metal, a steady, unbroken rhythm in the vast silence of the Reach. We'll be here tomorrow when the next transmission arrives from the edge of the galaxy. Make sure you're ready to see what the Sovel discover next.